now.
Okay, well, thank you, and good morning to all. We're going to call to order the Wednesday, October 27th, 2021 meeting of the Delta Conservancy and Sacramento San Joaquin Delta Conservancy. And we want to thank folks who've joined with us, certainly colleagues on the board, all of our staff and presenters, and all of our guests. So with that, then let's go ahead and call the roll to establish a quorum, and then we'll do any introductions. Campbell, you can assist me if we have guests today, and we'll get right into the agenda. So.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Natoli.
Good morning, Jessica.
Roll.
I'm just going through my list
You're
here.
doing fine. Good morning. You're smiling. That's
Vice
great.
Chair Matsumoto.
Here.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Here.
Supervisor Miller.
Here.
Supervisor Mashburn.
Here.
Supervisor Provenza. No Jim yet. Board Member Miller Gale.
Here.
Hi. Oh, hi. Board Member Cash, I saw you there.
Here.
Board Member Roostaller. No. Board Member Winternitz, we say is absent. And Board Member Sandoval. I saw Dolly, right? Dolly, you want to unmute and say?
Sorry, I'm here.
There you are. I did also see Assembly Member Grayson. Is there any liaison advisors? Also, I saw Jessica Davenport. Did we have any other liaison advisors that you want to raise your hand or make yourself known? I see Nicole Rinke is here, our council. Okay. All righty. Thank you.
So, Chair Natoli, if you don't mind, I'm just going to do quick Zoom announcements real quick.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Campbell. Yeah, you bet.
So as you all are very used to now, we are on the Zoom platform again. Board members, staff, and presenters are able to unmute themselves. But still, of course, we appreciate if you remain muted if you're not talking. Members of the public are welcome to comment at recognized times. If you're on the Zoom platform, you'll need to go in to the platform there and raise your hand. The host will recognize you and unmute you. If you're calling in, you'll need to hit #2. And again, the host will recognize you, and but you may still be on mute on your phone. So check that. You can also send any comments you have in real time to contact@deltaconservancy.ca.gov. And I think that's it. We're good to go. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Campbell. Again, welcome to all, and thank you, Assemblymember Grayson, for joining us as well, and all of our liaisons. And so with that, then we're going to go into our agenda. And the first item is public comment for items that aren't on the agenda, any new business items. And so would turn to our clerk. And do we have any folks in the queue that wish to address the Conservancy Board on any item that's not on the agenda?
We do have one hand raised, Oscar Villegas.
Okay.
Oscar, you should be able to mute yourself and make comment.
Okay, thank you. Actually, good morning.
Morning, Oscar.
We need to admit him as a panelist.
Is he supposed to be promoted to panelist? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm actually as the alternate subbing in for Jim. That's at least part of the meeting, I believe, this morning. So
let me throw you up into panelist, Oscar. Thank you.
all right.
So he's in for Jim Provenza.
Yes.
Hi, Oscar.
Thank you for joining us, Oscar.
Good. All right, that's a hand up, and that's great. So, and welcome aboard, Mr. Villegas. Okay, any other public comments or items that are not on the agenda people wish to speak to?
No public comments from this
Okay,
end.
very good. Okay, great. Thanks, Marlon. All right, so if not, then we'll move down to our consent calendar, which is item number 4. This will require a motion. Is the approval of the July 28, 2021 board meeting summary and action items, and those were attached. So turn to the members of the Conservancy Board. Any modifications, amendments, or corrections in the summary? Okay, hearing none. Do we have any public comments on this, Martha? No.
No
Okay.
public comments. Thank you.
All right, no public comments. Okay, so the motion would be in order if that's.
I'll move approval, sir.
Okay.
Second by Miller.
Okay, moved by Mashburn, second by Miller to approve the consent calendar. And if there's nothing further, no further comments, then we'll need to do a roll call vote. So Jessica?
Okay, Chair Natoli,
Aye.
Vice Chair Matsumoto,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Yes.
Supervisor Villegas.
I'll abstain from this item.
Okay. Board Member Miller, Gail,
Aye.
Board Member Cash,
Aye.
Rustoller is absent, Winterness is absent, and Board Member Sandoval.
Yes.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 ayes. The motion carries.
8 ayes, 1 abstention. Okay, very good. Thanks, Jessica. Okay, then moving down the agenda, we're down to that time for the executive officer's report. So turn to Mr. Ingram, and I know he's got a packed schedule here of things that he wants to go over. So we'll turn to you, Campbell.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm definitely just going to hit the highlights. You have the report, and I'm always happy to answer questions. As we mentioned, we do have a very full agenda, and I want to start by acknowledging staff. As you all know, that we're a bit shorthanded right now, and as you can tell by the board packet, we've got lots going on. So their hard work and dedication is really appreciated. Even putting out this board packet was a heavy lift. It's over 100 pages, which is just a lot of review. So thank everyone for participating in that, and we look forward to sharing all of this with you. Sadly, continuing with our staffing shortages, we have to say goodbye to Robin Kroc. Robin is our community project supervisor and Proposition 68 grant program lead. Robin's accepted a position with California State Parks, where she will manage the Park Impact Partner Program within their partnership division. So, Robin led the development of Prop 68, which has so far brought 2 really good projects for approval to the board. You're going to see a lot more from Robin today as we talk about 3 more Prop 68 projects, which we're very happy to see moving forward. Robin's contributions to the Conservancy are huge, and she's definitely going to be missed. So, good luck to Robin, and thank you. We are working diligently to backfill all these positions. We have 1 offer made. We have 2 sets of interviews coming up, and then we'll work to backfill Robin's position as soon as possible. Next thing I wanted to cover is that you should have all received your meeting dates for 2022 for the board meeting, and you'll notice a couple things. We did not ask you to hold the alternate months as we have in the past. We haven't used those in a very long time, and it just didn't seem to make sense. Obviously, if we have a need to call a special meeting in between our regular 5 meetings, we would do so. So we're just not doing that anymore. Similarly, we did not ask you to hold program and policy subcommittee meeting dates. We canceled every program and policy subcommittee meeting last year, simply because there was not sufficient reason to hold those meetings. So rather than have a meeting that we constantly cancel, we would opt for having a meeting that we will call as needed. So the charter will stay intact, the process will stay intact. If during this meeting or at any time board members feel that there are items that could use additional vetting before something comes to the board, absolutely, please let us know, and we will schedule a program policy meeting accordingly. Okay, the big highlight, the big news is that we're very fortunate to have received some additional funding. We have received $5.2 million from the Climate Action Budget package, and that is in general fund, and that is to support climate, conservation, and public access projects. We will be discussing a set of general grant guidelines later on in the agenda that will facilitate our being able to move those funds. And we are in the process of receiving an additional funding source. This is happening very quickly, so this will be the first time you're hearing about this. But the Department of Water Resources has asked us to take a lead in implementing a drought response grant program in the Delta. This program will incentivize farmers to adopt practices that will reduce water consumption and increase Delta outflow. Practices will include things like installing more efficient irrigation systems like water or irrigation tape. Also practices such as fallowing land and even planting on wider furrows. So we're beginning the stages of transferring $10 million from the Department of Water Resources for us to run this program. And that will cover both the grants and administrative costs. This really is a great opportunity for the Conservancy, particularly as we start to wind down our allocation in Proposition 1. Of course, it's consistent with our legislative authorities to protect water quality and promote protection of agriculture and agricultural systems in the Delta. Now, due to the urgency of the program and the desire to get some grants out very soon, we are going to be exercising our delegation authority. So to be clear, our delegation authority allows us to receive money in any amount, but then it requires that the board approve grants or contracts that are greater than $100,000. So there is a clause in there that if a project is time sensitive and exceeds $100,000, meaning that the project might not be able to move forward or would be hampered by having to wait to the next board meeting, we can work with the chair and the vice chair to get their approval to go ahead and execute an agreement. So we don't know for sure that we would have grants coming through before our January board meeting, but the hope is that we do. So if we do, we would exercise that delegation authority and move forward with those. And of course, as always, we would share with the board all agreements and contracts that we would enter into in the interim at the next board meeting. So I think I'll just take a pause there and see if there's any questions on those items before I move on with the rest of the EO report.
Okay, great. Thanks, Campbell. Let me go to board members. Questions about anything that either Campbell reported on or that's in the report or anything else? And Dolly has a hand up. Dolly, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. Campbell, I don't have any questions actually, but I just think it's really fabulous. When I started on this board many years ago, one of the things that we wanted the Conservancy to become have more of a role in is really organizing discussions on the Delta at a greater role than what we had previously. And so I think this is stepping up and expanding our repertoire and being the convener of Delta conversations for the greater good. So I appreciate this, and also appreciate the endeavor the staff is going to undertake and the workload that'll bring. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks for those comments, Dolly. Okay, Sandy and then Karen.
I wanted to just say congratulations to Robin. We're going to miss you and thank you for all the great work that you've done here, building the program, bringing in the proposals and really getting the word out. It's been really neat to see the kind of projects that are coming in. And I think the diversity of those projects is a testament to the success of you being out and finding really great applicants. So congratulations, Robin, and thank you for all your work here. And then similarly, I'll echo Dolly. I'm really excited about this ability to do some drought response and to get some things on the ground quickly. So, I think to all the staff, just great job. I know you guys are being asked to do a lot right now under hard circumstances with short staff. So I just want to recognize all of you for the work that you're doing, for stepping up. I'm sure some of you are taking on things that are outside of your regular job description. So just wanted to recognize that and say thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Good comment. Okay, Karen and then Kathy.
I'll just make it quick. I'm going to echo what Sandy and Dolly said, and we'll miss you, Robin. Good luck in the future. Thank you for all your efforts.
Kathy?
Thank you. I also want to say good luck to Robin, but really to the whole team at the Conservancy. I think this is a testament to how well we have implemented the programs that have come our way. The Prop 1 grant programs, the Prop 68, all of these things. I think this is a recognition that that the Conservancy is doing a good job and we're making a positive impact. So the ability to assist during this drought. I think it's great. And we all appreciate that it will be more work, but it's also an opportunity to do more good for our Delta. So thanks to the whole team.
Thanks, Kelly. Mitch, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo everybody's statement already, and I want to wish Robin luck, and I want to wish her a wonderful new job over at the parks. That hopefully she can make as big an impact there as she did here. And then I also want to thank staff for the focus on the drought, but also on agriculture and supporting our ag folks and making sure that we help them through this, as well as the Delta itself and the environmental piece. We're also helping the ag. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mitch. Anyone else, board members, comments or questions?
Okay, well, I will race through and just hit the highlights so far now. So you'll notice that there is the update on the Nutria Eradication. We've taken 2,719 since last reported, or I'm sorry, since May of last year. Program is in full swing, seems to be controlling the Nutria, no further sightings in the Delta, so that's good news. Along the similar lines, I wanted to highlight that we have partnered with the Nature Conservancy and Point Blue Conservation Science in Audubon, California, to stand up very rapidly the Bird Returns Program. And that is a program that is functioning right now. And the idea is essentially a reverse auction, where we entice farmers to flood up their fields to certain depths for certain durations to provide habitat for water birds. And so you can put in bids this week. And it's a critical program because, again, with the expectation of the drought, there's going to be very little waterfowl habitat, and it just incentivizes farmers to utilize their field for multiple benefits. So our role has been just helping to develop the program and doing a lot of outreach, and then we will help review the proposals. And Rachel Wigginton on our staff has been very active in that space. Another good program where we're partnering and adding value. Wanted just to mention again that the 2021 Delta Invasive Species Symposium is coming up on December 15th. Again, that's Rachel Wigginton, who's largely been coordinating this effort and bringing the speakers together. It's going to be a great opportunity to really focus on early detection and rapid response to new invasions in the Delta and support the development of an early detection and rapid response plan for future invasions. Moving on, I feel like I'm talking a mile a minute here. I'll try to slow down.
Campbell, can I just ask you, so would you get us,
Sure.
if you haven't already, send out information regarding the December 15th invasive species workshop, if people wanted to attend it or how they would enroll or any information to be pertinent to attend this, that would be helpful if you haven't already.
We will do that. There's been a save the date that's gone out, and but we'll definitely make sure board members all receive that information.
Very good.
Rachel,
Thanks.
I'm sure you heard that. So the last thing from my part of the AO report is just board directives from the last meeting. The board requested that we do provide an update on the restoration planning at River Garden Farms. You'll recall that there's been a change of ownership. I'll spoil the update and just say that we're still trying to get in touch with the new owners and see what their intentions are. But that is a part of the Prop 1 update later on in the agenda. So at this point, unless there's program questions, I will turn it over to Jessica Adel and let her give us the budget and expenditure update.
Questions?
Hello there. I'm also going to be very brief. We are just starting our fiscal year. The agenda item 5, attachment 3 is our budget expenditure report from July through August. Are basically mostly just personnel services and facilities are current to date. I did want to note that the $5,250,000 climate resilience, community access, and natural resource protection local assistance funding is not currently on there. It has been enacted. It was after August that I got the information. So you will see that on the next budget and expenditure report, and perhaps also the 10 million if we get that in done shortly. That is what we're working on budget wise. Do you have any questions about the budget and expenditure report?
Questions for Jessica?
Okay, if not, that concludes the executive officer's report. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Campbell and Jessica both. And again, just re-echoing comments of colleagues and board members. Certainly thank our staff for your efforts and, best wishes to Robin. But I know that there are some exciting things ahead and you reported on those, and we look forward to updates, but also, putting those dollars to good use in the Delta for the purpose by which this, Conservancy Board has its mission and work in the Delta. So again, thanks, Campbell, for your work and that of your dedicated staff. So with that, then, before we leave that, is there any public comment on the Executive Director's Office's report?
There is one hand raised.
Okay, great, James.
It looks like Supervisor Jim Provenza joined us.
Okay.
So Supervisor Provenza, I'll promote you to panelist now.
So with that, then, does Jim, welcome aboard. Oscar's here. So Oscar, are you stepping back, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'll step back. I just wanted to fill in while he was attending another commitment. So yeah, sounds good.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you. Thank you, Oscar. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Oscar.
You're welcome to stay, though.
Absolutely. As I will. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Okay, good. Thanks, Oscar. Okay, good morning, Jim. Welcome.
Good morning.
Okay.
Sorry, I am having a problem promoting Jim to panelist, so I'll just leave him unmuted. Oh, no, he just joined now. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks for all the technical assistance, James. You're doing good. So, all right. Okay, so any other hands from any member of the public wish to speak to this? None?
No other
No
hand
public
raised.
comment.
No public comment. Okay, great, thanks. Okay, good report. And then we'll now move down then to item number 6, which is our Prop 1 Ecosystem Restoration and Water Quality Grant Program update. So I think Shell's going to do this one.
Good morning. Yes, Shelley Temple King, environmental scientist. It's my pleasure to present to you agenda item 6, the Proposition 1 project update. I'm going to highlight just a few of our current Proposition 1 projects. As always, we've provided the complete program update in the board materials, and I'm happy to answer questions about any of the projects. Following the current project update, I'll present a summary of the concept proposals that were received for the Cycle 5 solicitation. So first, there's an update to the Elk Slough Fish Passage and Flood Improvement Plan. I have the hardest time making all of those words come out together. It's a Cycle 4 funded project with the ID 1807. This project was initially considered by the board at the May 22nd, 2019 meeting, and the board raised some concerns that subsequently Conservancy staff worked with the project team to resolve. At the September 25th, 2019 board meeting, the project was awarded funding in 2 phases. Phase 1 funded the development of a preliminary study with a technical advisory committee to determine the project's potential to benefit listed fish species. The board authorized Conservancy staff to review and approve the preliminary study final report. In July of this year, the grantee provided a draft report for Phase 1 of this project. Conservancy staff reviewed the report and provided feedback to the grantee. Earlier this month, the final report, which incorporated this feedback, was submitted. Conservancy staff have reviewed and approved the final report, allowing the grantee, which is Reclamation District 999, to begin work on Phase 2 of the project, which is project design planning. As Campbell mentioned, at the July 28th, 2021 board meeting, the board requested that staff provide an update on the presumptive sale of River Garden Farms. This is the site of the Cycle 4 funded project restoration planning at River Garden Farms, ID 1702. The sale of the property is moving forward, but the original timeline has been delayed, first due to drought mitigation and then later due to harvest. So the grantee is working with the buyer to determine whether restoration planning and current conservation activities will be able to continue. All other planning work remains paused for now. Another Cycle 4 funded project, the Knights and Wetland Restoration and Flood Protection, ID 1709, has scheduled 2 public community meetings. A project update on site concepts, timeline, and site investigations will be held via Zoom on November 9th, 2021. Subsequently, on December 4th, the grantee is hosting an in-person site visit for attendees to meet the project team, see site design concepts, and learn about the site. The Knightstown Community Services District has previously expressed concern about the public meeting noticing process, so the Conservancy will send electronic notice of these meetings in addition to the noticing completed by the grantee. Due to the additional studies that have been requested by the Knightstown Community Services District, the grantee, the East Contra Costa County Habitat Conservancy, is exploring the possibility of preparing an environmental impact report instead of the initially proposed initial study mitigated negative declaration. And so as they're exploring that, impacts to the grant are being assessed. If the grant chooses to request an amendment, it will be brought before the board for approval. The Dutch Slough Tidal Habitat Restoration, for which revegetation funding was awarded to Reclamation District 2137 in Cycle 3, ID 1602, has completed revegetation and installation of irrigation systems. The entire marsh area has undergone continuous flooding throughout the summer. Additionally, the levees in the 2 Conservancy-funded revegetation parcels have been breached. There are several drone videos of these parcels on the project's YouTube channel, which is also linked in the update table. All breaches and pedestrian bridges are anticipated to be complete by the end of this year. I'm happy to take any questions or comments about current Prop 1 projects, and then I'll move on to proposed projects in the Cycle 5 concept proposal solicitation.
Thanks, Shelley. Questions at this juncture? Any reports? Don't see any hands, Shelley, so proceed.
Okay. Well, I will move on. So I will be referencing some of the materials in the board packet for it's a PDF of the summary of the Cycle 5 concept proposals. So if you have that handy, oh, and James is going to share it too. Thank you, James. Okay. The Conservancy Cycle 5 concept proposal solicitation closed on August 31st. With approximately $3.1 million to award, the Conservancy received 12 concept proposals requesting almost $12 million. Staff evaluated the concept proposals and provided feedback to all applicants in writing and at virtual meetings. The Conservancy's feedback is intended to aid applicants in assembling complete, clear, and responsive full proposals. The full proposal submission period opened yesterday on October 26th and will close on December 15th. We do plan to bring recommendations to the May 2022 board meeting. And so the funding requests are broken down on the following slides. Next slide, please, James. So the total funding requested was $11,780,400. There were 12 proposals received. 5 of those were planning projects and 7 were implementation projects. All of the proposed projects are listed in Figure 1 of the Proposition 1 staff report, which begins on page 13. Next slide, please, James. So the greatest total request by county was for Sacramento, followed by Contra Costa, Yolo, Solano, and San Joaquin. Next slide, please, James. And then we also broke it down by the project type, funding request by project type. So we had just over $8 million in implementation proposals, about 1.5 million in planning, and then 2.2 in planning as a pilot project, which I broke out just because it is a substantial funding request, and I didn't want it to get totally pushed back into the planning section. And so those 7 implementation projects represent 68% of the total funding requests. Next slide, please. And so finally, we looked at funding requests by priority type. All of the requests have ecosystem protection, restoration, and enhancement listed as a funding priority. 6 list water quality improvement as a funding priority, and 2 list water-related agricultural sustainability. And so I am happy to take questions about any of the concept proposals. Do note that Figure 1 begins on page 13, and it lists each proposal by project ID, project name, the applicant, the project type, the funding request, the funding priorities, and any additional notes. One note was omitted from ID 2208 that I would like to correct now. Planning for this proposed implementation project was funded by the Delta Conservancy Proposition 1 Planning Grant, ID 1804. So in total, planning for 4 of the proposed implementation projects was funded through the Conservancy's Proposition 1 program. And even though I said I was ready to take questions a second ago, I really mean it now.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. We have some hands up. I just wanted to ask you a quick question before I go to the fellow board members. On the P1 2202, the fish-friendly diversion pilot, it says the applicant is South Valley Water Resources Authority.
Yes.
What is that organization? They say Sacramento County. I'm not familiar at all with that particular organization.
That is a nonprofit, I believe. And aside from that, I will say that I don't know a ton about it.
Okay. A water authority, typically when you have authority following, it's a, governmental, it might be a joint powers authority, might be, but if it's a nonprofit, maybe taking that name. I just curious, and it doesn't say where in the county. Obviously it's in the Delta, but so do you have more background?
Don, yeah, I can pull up some information about them.
Okay.
All right. So
the project, this is Sarah Lesmeister, I'm the
hi, Sarah.
programs manager. Hi. Oh. The project is near Clifton Court Forbay, is where they're planning on doing a pilot project. If I remember
Where,
correctly.
Clifton Court Forbay?
Correct, or near that area, yes.
Well, that's not Sacramento County.
Yeah, that's Contra Costa. Which item is it again?
But the second one down on that page, it says fish 2202, Karen, P1 2202.
Thank you. I've never heard of it either, but.
And I was mistaken. They are listed as a public agency.
Okay.
But even, so we need to change that if it's Contra Costa, if it's Clifton Court Forbay.
Yeah. And so that would change all your pie charts too. So just, okay.
And
yeah, they won't change automatically on the PDF, but they will change automatically in the actual file. But that was absolutely my error. I just looked at the proposal and it is definitely in Contra Costa County.
Okay, no, that's okay. Well, yeah, and Karen and folks can look at it. It was not familiar to me at all, and so it kind of jumped off the page. So,
well, and I'm not familiar with South Valley Water either. And Clifton Court Forbay, could it touch a little bit of San Joaquin? And therefore, we just need more. Kathy, you're on mute, and I see that you're trying to talk.
It could be, but I'm not familiar with him either. So we should maybe look a little bit closer at that. It didn't raise any flags with me because I just saw Sacramento County.
They're definitely new to us.
An alias.
Shelley, could you just send out move forward with your work on them, but could you just send out an email, just a little bit more about, where they're located, what their address was, and
certainly, Karen. And I did just look. It looks like they're located in Bakersfield, so that would explain why no one has heard of them. But the project they're proposing is in the Delta.
We review proposals that we receive and provide feedback. They've been provided appropriate feedback. And,
okay.
And what do you mean by feedback? Like, I get very nervous when I hear Bakersfield.
Yes, and I think quite a bit of feedback was given on whether or not the project actually met the requirements of the program. Lots of feedback about whether or not they could actually achieve local support for the project, and other elements as well. So they're evaluating based on that feedback. They're evaluating whether or not it's really whether or not it's a consistent, whether or not we're the best funding source for it, and whether or not they're going to actually invest the time and effort into developing a full proposal.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for the clarification. So this is way South Valley. This is into the Central Valley. Okay, very good. So now we have hands up, Sandy and Deborah both. Deborah, you were trying to respond to this item, or?
Yeah, just a quick, the South Valley Water Association, per the information on their website, they're comprised of different districts, one of which is the Southern San Joaquin Municipal Utility District. So while a lot of their authority is in the, much farther south towards Bakersfield and whatnot, they do have some areas up farther north. So it's probably just touching on that.
Get more information.
But we will certainly send out some additional information to the board for the request.
Okay, thanks everybody for clarification. Sandy, you've been patient. Go ahead.
Thanks, Shelley, for the report. I have a question. I don't know if this is for you or for Campbell maybe, but in light of how many proposals that came in and the limited funds that are available, how are you thinking about this with the new sources of funding that came in from the budget? Like, are you going to roll some of these in there, or kind of how you connect, or are you connecting the two?
Yeah, it's a really good question. In addition to thinking about whether or not we connect the new funding sources to this, we're also working with Department of Fish and Wildlife, because they're currently looking at doing a solicitation for Prop 1 as well. And so we're coordinating about how potentially, if there are proposals that we would like to fund, but we don't have the funding to be able to cover them, we could potentially put it into their system and they could look at funding it through their solicitation. That's going to take a little bit more coordination and work to make that a seamless handoff, if that's the way it goes. But yes, and I guess the other option is, because that $5.2 million is for climate conservation and public access, that it could potentially be used if that is something that we want to do. So we'll be looking at that as well. Really, I think it ultimately depends on how many of these projects are actually, get through the process and have strong recommendations and support for funding.
Okay. Sandy, anything else? Okay, good. All right. Nothing else from Sandy, then Karen?
With the information that was presented on the last discussion item, I don't need any more information. Knowing Bakersfield and you've had this outreach, unless the others do, I'd rather staff spend their time doing the other work as opposed to communicating with us. Thanks.
Okay, good. Thanks, Karen. Okay, Dolly.
You're still muted, Dolly.
I may be answering my own question, which is why I'm stalling out here. On the Bees Lake Habitat Restoration Implementation Grant being submitted 2201, is that from the planning grant that we had funded so many years ago, it seems?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I needed.
Any other questions? I see other hands up.
No public comment from the inbox.
Okay, good. Thanks, Martha. All
No
right.
hands raised either.
Okay, well, good. Well, Shelley, thank you, and thanks to our staff. And summarize it neatly, but I think to Karen's point, there's a lot of work that's behind all of this, so appreciate it, and you'll keep us updated as the cycle 5 concepts move forward in the review process. So, okay. Anything else, Shelley, before we go to next time? Okay. Thanks. All right, and we had no public comment, and so that was an update, no action required. We'll now go to item 7, and the next several items are, well, actually 7 is a report, and then we have action items following that. So, and we turn to, Campbell, do you want to do an introduction, or we just go right to Robin?
No, I think we'll go right to Robin, and just again, thank her for all her work on this, and look forward to presenting the next 4 items to you.
Okay, we can't talk you into staying, huh, Robin?
Thank you. So first of all, I have to apologize. I have a bit of a frog in my throat this morning. So hopefully you all can hear me okay. I will, for the sake of brevity, knowing that we have several other Prop 68 items that will take much more discussion, I will just touch on some highlights for the staff, the program update. We do have, as you know, we were allocated $12 million. We currently have either obligated, awarded, or requested through the program just over $7 million, which of course will fluctuate because since we're able to count from when concept proposals come in. But that's where we are right now. The main things I want to highlight that have changed since the last board meeting is that the first project, the Pittsburgh Boat Launch Facility and Central Harbor Park upgrade, which was the planning project that the board previously awarded for $172,155 to Contra Costa, to the city of Pittsburgh in Contra Costa. We do now have an active grant. The grant was, they were able to take it to council, have it approved. Campbell, of course, signed off on it for the Conservancy, and it is an active project. So we're excited about that to have an active project now. The next one, the Southport Levee Recreational Trail, also a planning project that the board approved in July for $341,668 to the city of West Sacramento and Yolo County. The grant agreement has been drafted. It's been reviewed by everybody. It is now with the city, who needs to take it to their city council. Unfortunately, they're not going to get it on their agenda until the middle of November. So we have a few more weeks, probably another month probably, before we have a fully signed and grant agreement and active project. But that is just, you know, a holdup on their end with their agenda. And I don't foresee any problems with that. It's just a timing. There aren't significant other changes that I wanted to highlight, so I will just answer any questions before jumping into the next few agenda items.
Thanks, Robin. Questions on any of the project status? Any hands, James? I don't see any hands.
No hands.
No public comment.
Oh, I do see a hand. Jim.
Excuse me. So on the working proposals, I think Supervisor Villegas may have had wanted to make a comment on the Clarksville Schoolhouse restoration.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. So Oscar, do you want to weigh in?
Unless we've lost him. I'm not seeing him, so he may have had to step out for a minute, but this was one that is important to Yolo County, and I'm not sure in terms of whether we need to do anything to move this along, or if everything is progressing as it should.
Are you talking about 6813, which is the restoration component of the project? Okay, because 6802 is coming before the board today.
Okay.
And that's the land acquisition part of that project.
Okay, so those two are related then?
Yeah. So
okay.
Yes, and I'm going to provide that explanation in 6802, but I'm glad you brought it up and confirmed that I need to provide that explanation.
Okay, well, thank you, and I'm sorry for jumping ahead. I didn't mean.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, okay, so it's kind of bifurcated, but there is an action item, and good question. And Robin, as you said, you'll cover that in a moment. So any other questions, comments about the general report on this? And seeing none with no public comment, then this was just an update, and we're going to move forward then, going to item 8, which will take us right into the actionable items. So Robin, you're going to be up for the next 3 items. So
yes. So the next 3 agenda items are projects the staff is bringing to the board for consideration of award through the Conservancy's Proposition 68 program. And first of all, I'd like to start by just, in this age of Zoom, since we're not all in the room, I want to note that I believe that there are representatives from the applicant teams for each of these projects on the call right now, and I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay, and we can call upon if they want to weigh in, and we'll be sure to take into account if they want to make any comments on this once you complete your report. So good, but thanks for telling us that.
So each of these 3 projects is different, but each of them does have a CEQA component, which is also a little bit different for each project. So what that means is that for 2 of them, we're actually going to have 2 motions. There will be a motion for the CEQA component and a motion for the funding award component. And The way we'll do this is I'll walk through we'll start with obviously with agenda item 8. I will walk through the project description and details as I normally would. I'll then turn it over to Rachel Wigginton, our senior environmental scientist, to walk you through the CEQA component for that project. And then it'll come back to me to walk through the motion language after that. So this first item presents for board consideration a recommendation for approval of 2 motions related to the land acquisition of the 1883 Clarksville Schoolhouse and Delta Welcome Center project. The first motion, again, will be the CEQA portion, which again, Rachel will walk you through. The second motion is a recommendation for a funding award of up to $310,000, $310,373 for the purchase of the land to permanently house the historic 1883 schoolhouse, along with appraisal and other related fees. So going back to Jim's comment, as a reminder, this proposal was originally submitted as one grant application, and that included both the land acquisition and the restoration of the schoolhouse, which is a historic building. Following best practices of the Office of Bonds and Grants at agency, staff requested that the applicant submit a separate proposal for the land acquisition and a separate proposal for restoration. Those are best practices that agency does do with their proposals. And we felt like it would make things kind of cleaner overall to have those separated. So the project being submitted to you for consideration today is the acquisition component. And again, Jim, just so to address your comments, we are expecting in the future to get the restoration component, to get that proposal.
Okay.
So if this is awarded, this grant funding will allow Friends or Friends of the 1883 Clarksville Schoolhouse, which we shorten to Friends, to acquire a 1.13 acre parcel in Clarksburg that will serve as the permanent home of the restored 1883 Clarksburg Schoolhouse building. So the last page of the agenda item in front of you includes a project location map. And as you can see, the parcel in question is at the corner of Riverview Drive, which runs parallel to the river, and the main turn into downtown Clarksburg. So it's very visible from the road. Following the site acquisition, the land acquisition, the second phase of the project will be restoration of the historic building. And once restored, the schoolhouse will host both a Delta Welcome Center and an education center that will showcase Clarksburg history and culture, as well as the larger Delta area, provide a community gathering space and event venue for rental, and provide information about tourism and recreational opportunities throughout the whole Delta. Maintenance costs for the site will be covered through venue rentals. That's something when we have a project like this, we are very conscious of long-term maintenance and how those costs will be covered for this kind of project. So they will be covered through venue rentals and use of low-cost volunteer labor and tools provided by community members. And engagement with community members has already proved valuable this far in this project, and they have a good model set up already in Clarksburg for working with local volunteers to help with the community. While Friends does not have a cost share contribution, it's important to note that they've raised both funds and significant in-kind donations through their fundraising efforts, and those are listed under local and institutional support. Further down. As you're aware, we do through Prop 68 have a requirement that at least 20% of the funding, the total funding from Prop 68 to the Conservancy be spent on projects that serve severely disadvantaged communities, which is very clearly defined in the bond as a community with a median household income less than 60% of the statewide average. While this project does not serve a disadvantaged community per the bond language, So it can't be counted as part of that 20%. Just by nature of being an education center and welcome center, nearby SDAC communities will likely benefit from the project. So we just want to point that out. Also, I wanted to note that while there isn't a cost share component from Friends, that is, first of all, cost share is not required for this program, as it is Prop 1. And we do evaluate for cost share and have determined that while they don't have qualifying cost share component, again, they have raised significant funds and have a lot of in-kind donations from local community. This project is consistent with Proposition 68 and the Conservancy's enabling legislation and strategic plan, as well as the Delta Plan and the Delta Protection Commission's Economic Sustainability Plan. And if there aren't any, I'm happy to take any questions. Before I turn it over to Rachel to talk about the CEQA.
Okay, great. Thanks, Robin. Okay, let me go to Conservancy board members first, and then we'll take any comments or any of the folks that are associated with the project wish to speak. So any questions or comments at this juncture by board members? Yes, Jim, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say that this is a project that Yolo County and particularly the community of Clarksburg have worked on for a considerable amount of time. The goal of restoring the schoolhouse and having a interpretive center, kind of a welcoming center to the Delta has been a long time goal. There's been a lot of people who have volunteered some substantial amount of hours, and we know that that's going to continue. This really is the type of project that I think was intended to be funded by this proposition, and I think very much in favor of going forward on it.
Thank you, Jim.
Welcome.
Okay, any other hands up, Conservancy board members? If not, then let me go to public comment. And I know, Robin, you said we have folks on the phone. So if folks associated with the project wanted to make any comments or anyone else. Oh, I see Oscar. Oscar got his hand up. So go to Oscar before we go to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just very quickly wanted to say thank you to the staff. It was a tremendous lift from the very beginning with the enabling legislation all the way through to today. These legacy communities really do represent kind of the heart of the Delta. And I think these are the perfect kinds of projects to really provide aspects of the Delta and these legacy communities to the rest of the world. And these kinds of grant programs are perfectly suited to help the rest of the world see just how amazing the Delta is. So just wanted to thank the staff and thank everybody involved in making this happen.
Great. Well, thank you, Oscar. Okay. Anyone else? James, do you have?
We don't have any public comment, but I do know that we have some folks from the project who maybe will speak at the end.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Thanks, Martha. Okay. All right, so we don't have any public comment, and certainly folks are welcome to speak. Maybe they want to wait and see what we're going to do with this. I think it's pretty inevitable, but all right. Oscar, did you have your hand up again?
No, sir, my apologies.
Okay, no problem. I'll wave at you. Okay. All right, very good. So with that, then, if there's no further comments by board members, or we'll bring it back. Robin, and you said we have a kind of a two-part motion here, one on the CEQA document and one on the project. So we'll turn to staff.
And so before we get to the motion, Rachel's going to explain what the motion is, because the CEQA component for each of these three projects is a little bit different. And so she'll provide an explanation for what the motion means.
Okay, and so she'll put it in a framework where I think we could then call for that motion if she states the language. That might be the most streamlined way to do this. So once she's explained it, state the motion, and then we can call for a maker of that motion. So that works. That work?
Excellent.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello. Good morning, board members. As Robin said, the land acquisition for the Clarksville Schoolhouse and Delta Welcome Center project presents the first of 3 different California Environmental Quality Act scenarios presented by Prop 68 projects that will be coming before you for consideration today. The California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, requires project proponents to consider the potential environmental impacts of a project. And CEQA processes are spearheaded by a lead agency who is the primary public agency responsible for the project, and reviewed by various responsible agencies who fund or permit the projects. So in the case of the land acquisition for the Clarksville Schoolhouse and Delta Welcome Center project, the Delta Conservancy must act as the CEQA lead agency because no other public agency will be central to the acquisition process. In addition to laying out considerations for who will lead and review the CEQA process, CEQA also categorically exempts certain projects from environmental review. In the case of an exempt project, the lead agency's decision-making body must find the project exempt, and a notice of exemption should be filed and publicly posted. So for this project, staff have reviewed the project and found that it is categorically exempt under CEQA because acquisition of lands to create a project, or rather to create a park that preserves the historic or archaeological condition of a site, and the acquisition, sale, or transfer of a site to preserve historic resources are both considered categorical exemptions under CEQA. The board resolution number 2021-02, which if approved will be signed by the chair, is a formal statement of these exemption findings. And the attached notice of exemption will be signed and filed by myself and posted to the Delta Conservancy website if the board moves to adopt the resolution. So with that, I'll pause for questions if anyone has any about the CEQA details of this project.
Questions for Rachel? See any? Okay, proceed. Oh, I do see a hand. I'm sorry, Nicole.
Just one quick clarification. I think Rachel.
Nicole, we can't hear you.
Kind of quiet. Yeah, speak up.
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Huh, odd. Okay, I will squeeze in really tight to the screen.
That's better.
I just wanted to make sure that you all were referencing the right resolution. So it's resolution 2021-01. So
01.
When you take action on it, just make sure you reference the right one. I think Rachel, you might have said 02.
02. She said 02.
Oh, apologies for misspeaking on that one.
It's okay. Good catch. Thanks, Nicole. Okay. All right. Any other? I don't see any other hands raised. So, okay, go ahead and proceed then, Rachel. Thanks, Nicole.
Okay. So it comes back over to me, and okay. I'm gonna jump in real quick and also thank Nicole for catching some of this, the CEQA issues on this, and then she and Rachel both for working together and prioritizing getting this done so the project didn't get held up and coming to the board. So again, we have 2 motions. The first one is for CEQA. I'll read that one with the chair's permission.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Supervisor Burns has his hand up again. I'm not.
Yeah, I just wanted to move approval of resolution 2021-01.
I think there's a 2-step action, so we're going to take your motion in just a moment. I think, do we have to do the CEQA, or is that all bundled? So Robin, explain, because we'll get.
Well, the resolution that he just referenced is CEQA, and that is the motion. Okay. Let me go ahead and read the whole thing, just so it's in the record.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
Move that the board adopt resolution 2021-01, which finds that the land acquisition for the Clarksville Schoolhouse and Delta Welcome Center project is categorically exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to California Code of Regulations, Title 14, Chapter 3, Article 19, Section 15316, subsection B, and Section 15325, subsection E.
That's what Jim said.
My motion. Having just read those sections, that's my motion.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second that. Oh,
Everybody
clearly, Dolly, you did the second on that one.
Sure. Thank you, Dolly.
Yeah, very good. Okay, we had 3 seconds on it. So, all right, very good.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to go ahead and call that. Chair Natoli.
Aye.
Vice Chair Matsumoto.
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchoff
Yes.
and Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Yes.
Supervisor Provenza,
Yes.
Board Member Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Cash,
Aye.
Board Member Roostaller, absent. Board Member Winternitz, absent. And Board Member Sandoval?
Yes.
Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 9 yes.
Okay.
We have 2 absent. That's our 11. Motion
All right.
carried.
Carries. Okay, so now the second part of the motion, Robin.
Yes, so the second motion is move to award up to $310,373 to the Friends of the 1883 Clarksburg Schoolhouse from the Proposition 68 Community and Economic Enhancement Grant Program for the land acquisition for the Clarksburg Schoolhouse and Delta Welcome Center project.
Jim, was that your motion?
Yes, that was my motion.
Okay. All right, moved by Provenza. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second it. Oh, go ahead.
All right, Sandy got there. Okay, all right. Very good. So we
Okay,
have,
I have the motion by Provenza, seconded by Matsumoto, and a vote, Chair Natoli,
aye.
Vice Chair Matsumoto,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchoff,
Yes.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Yes.
Supervisor Provenza,
Aye.
Board Member Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Cash,
Aye.
Board Member Roostaller, absent. Board Member Winternitz is absent, and Board Member Sandoval.
Aye.
Aye. Again, we have 9 yeses and 2 absent. The motion carries.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. Do we have any commenters that were waiting to see what the action was?
I believe we do have somebody from the group. Will Middleton is on the phone, and if you could go ahead and unmute him, that would be great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Will should be able to unmute himself if he wants to talk.
Yes, this is Will Middleton. May I make my comments after the vote?
Yep, we
Okay, very
voted.
good.
It's all, it's been approved, Mr. Middleton, so it's been approved. Go right ahead.
Okay, well, I'll do it. Good morning. My name's Will Middleton, and I'm the president of the Friends of the 1883 Clarksville Schoolhouse. And most of our members are on the call today. I'd like to thank the board for this award. We are truly grateful because it allows us to take our project to the next step. I'd like to acknowledge Robin Kroc and her Conservancy staff who shepherded us through this process. And finally, we are humbled by your trust in our capabilities. And we pledge to use your gift to make Clarksburg and the Delta a place visitors want to be. And guess what? We're going to have a celebration tonight. Thank you very much.
All right, sounds like the party is on. So congratulations to the Friends, and thank you for all your good work, Mr. Middleton. Anyone else wish to comment?
No other hands raised.
Okay, so Jim and Oscar, you're leading the celebration in Clarksburg this evening, it sounds like. So anyway, thanks to our colleagues in Willow County, certainly to our staff and to all the folks that worked on this. It's exciting to see some of this come to fruition, and having the land's a big part of it. And obviously the restoration and the other piece of this will be forthcoming as well. So, okay, very good.
Thank you.
You bet. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else on that? If not, we'll move to the next item, item 9.
So agenda item 9 is the next Proposition 68 recommendation, staff recommendation, and this one only has one motion. There isn't a sequel motion. I will, however, pause after providing a description of the project to allow Rachel to explain. There is a special CEQA consideration with this, but the board doesn't need to take action on it, which she'll explain further. This project is a recommendation for the board to approve up to $554,773 in grant funding to the Delta Educational Cultural Society for the Asian American Heritage Park. This is located in Isleton, and in keeping with apparently our trend this meeting for noting the wrong county on our reports to the board, we did in error put Yolo County, and that should be Sacramento since Isleton's in Sacramento. I apologize about that. This project, the proposed Asian American Heritage Park, is an implementation project that will create a 0.07 acre park in the city of Isleton. So it's one of those long, narrow parcels of land directly on Main Street in Isleton. The proposed park will include culturally relevant objects and interpretive exhibits on the history and heritage of the Chinese and Japanese who once occupied the Asian American Historic District of Isleton and the events that impacted those communities. The Delta Educational Cultural Society will use Conservancy funding to develop the interpretive content and park elements, which will include landscaping, walkways, benches, engraved bricks and plaques, recognizing contributors to the park, an artistic ceramic water feature, seat walls, walkway tiles, and a Japanese bell temple or Kansho-do, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. A survey kiosk will also be installed to help measure the educational benefits of the park as part of the long-term monitoring plan. The lot on which the park will be developed is owned by the Delta Educational Cultural Society and is centrally positioned in the Isleton Chinese and Japanese commercial districts that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So this project is, again, we have the 20% requirement for projects that serve severely disadvantaged communities. And located in Isleton, this project does serve a severely disadvantaged community. So for the funding for this project would be part of that 20%. And again, while this project doesn't have what would be considered a qualifying cost share component, it is notable that they have secured considerable commitments of time and labor, donations and monetary support in other components of the project, and including just design of the park and willingness to engage in the project, and also with the city of Isleton for long-term maintenance of the project. So again, there isn't an actual action required. I am going to turn it over to Rachel, though, to explain the CEQA component of this project.
Robin, before you get it, and before you get it, if I could just note that the lot is adjacent, as noted in the staff report, to the Bing Kong Tong building, which serves as a museum and a gathering place in Isleton. And I would just say Sacramento County, in working with the parties there, including the Historical Society and the city leadership, and a lot of volunteers, has put in well more than $750,000 to building restoration and different elements that are included in that. So this is immediately adjacent to that building, if I'm not mistaken, and I think will be a tremendous compliment, but also I think really build on the history and certainly the previous contributions. We've used block grant monies in large part through the federal block grant program, working with the city and the organizations that in the restoration. And if you haven't been there, it's a tremendous undertaking, but they're well along in that restoration project, and this will be a compliment to that. So I just want to point that out, Robin. So. Okay, so let's go to Rachel then, I guess, unless there's any other questions on Robin's presentation. Okay, Rachel.
Morning again, board. So the Asian American Heritage Park is the second of your CEQA scenarios for today. This project is also categorically exempt under CEQA, but in this instance, the Delta Conservancy is a responsible agency. The city of Ileton acted as the lead agency and prepared the attached notice of exemption for the Asian American Heritage Park project. And the city council voted on February 9th, 2021, that the project is categorically exempt from environmental review under CEQA through exemptions for small structures and minor alterations to land. So as a responsible agency for a categorically exempt project, the board isn't obligated to take any action unless there's a reason to disagree with the exemption findings. Staff have reviewed the CEQA documentation provided by the applicant and agree with the findings and are satisfied with the documentation.
Thanks, Rachel. Questions? All right, seeing no hands, bring it back to you, Robin. And we'll call for public comment.
Okay. I'm sorry, you're calling for public comment.
Yeah, I was
first.
going to say, yeah, we'll bring
Sorry.
it. So yeah, no problem. So do we have any, James, any, or Martha, any commenters or hands up on this?
No commenters at this point.
No hands raised.
All right, very good. Okay, then back to you, Robin.
Okay, so the suggested motion language is move to award funding up to $554,773 to the Delta Educational Cultural Society from the Proposition 68 Community and Economic Enhancement Grant Program for the Asian American Heritage Park Project.
Okay. We have, a chair would make the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
So we have Chair Natoli with a motion, Supervisor Mitchoff with a second. Let's take a vote. Chair Natoli.
Aye.
Vice Chair Matsumoto.
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchoff.
Yes.
Supervisor Miller.
Yes.
Supervisor Mashburn.
Yes.
Supervisor Provenza. Jim.
Sorry, aye.
Aye. Board Member Miller.
Aye. Aye.
Board Member Cash.
Aye.
Board Member Woostaller still absent. Board Member Winternit still absent. And Board Member Sandoval.
Aye.
We have 9 ayes, 2 absents, and the motion carries.
Good. Was there any folks that were holding to speak to this?
I believe we do have somebody on from the organization. Jean Yakatobi is on, and if you could unmute her, James, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Martha. Good morning, Jean.
Jean, you should be able to mute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, go. Good morning, Jean.
Well, this is a project 12 years in the making. So I'm really excited. I'm humbled that this agency has funded this project to honor the Japanese and Chinese Americans in Ileton and in the Delta, to help preserve their history and their culture and their contribution to the Delta. I hope next year we'll have a groundbreaking and I will be able to meet all of you there, and thank you individually for now I'm getting a little emotional, so moving this project forward. So anyway, thank you very much and really appreciate your work and effort, and especially Robin. Boy, I have to really thank Robin for her support and her technical assistance in this project. So
Thank you, Jean, and thank you for your leadership, certainly of the Delta Educational Cultural Society, but I know your work certainly in the community, both in the city of Ileton, but certainly in the broader Delta. And I think, as you said, this will be important contribution to the history and recognizing the contributions of our Japanese and Chinese Americans, and certainly in the Delta, and which is ongoing. And again, thank you and all others who, from a volunteer standpoint, have contributed your time and effort, and certainly been a driving force behind this. And congratulations, and we look forward to the groundbreaking. So thank you. All right, any others? No.
Oh, their hands raised.
All right, very good. Okay. two good news to be added to a third one coming up. So we'll turn it to Robin for item 10, and that's our next item. And Robin, to you.
Yes. So this agenda item presents for board consideration a recommendation to make responsible agency findings. Again, I will turn it over to Rachel later to discuss the sequel part, as well as a recommendation to award Proposition 68 funding up to $1,486,050 to the Pacific Flyway Fund for the Pacific Flyway Center Walk in the Marsh. And again, there will be two motions associated with this. So this project is in Solano County, and the proposed Pacific Flyway Center Walk in the Marsh will build 3 miles of ADA compliant hiking trails, boardwalks, and educational signage through restored wetlands in Sassoon Marsh, along with a parking area, access road upgrades, a shade structure, decorative asphalt art, and a bike rack. Walk in the Marsh is part of a multi-phase effort to build the Pacific Flyway Center, an educational center on a 560-acre site owned by the Pacific Flyway Fund. Both the Walk in the Marsh and the broader PFC, the Pacific Flyway Center project, will educate the public about the importance of the Pacific Flyway while conserving diverse habitat mosaics of wetlands, uplands, and riparian areas for waterfowl and hundreds of other wildlife species. With easy access from Interstate 680, this project will allow people to experience and appreciate Sassoon Marsh and better understand its connection to the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. It is important to note that the Walk in the Marsh is a standalone project. So the Pacific Flyway Center is another phase of the project, but the Walk in the Marsh can be constructed and it has all the components needed to make it accessible and educational on its own. The Walk in the Marsh itself does have 2 components. So the trails, boardwalk, and other amenities that would be constructed through this grant funding if awarded, and construction of the marsh element, newly created, restored, and enhanced wetlands are 2 different components. While the second component, the restoration of the marsh wetlands, will be funded by the Pacific Flyway Fund, the applicant will be working to leverage grant money if awarded by seeking to hire one contractor to oversee all of the work, and that will likely reduce their overall costs as well as allow them to proceed in a more timely manner. All permits for both parts have been applied for and are anticipated to be approved soon. So again, per the bond language, this project does not directly serve a severely disadvantaged community in a way that we can justify it going towards that 20% requirement. However, being an educational center focusing on the Pacific Flyway, and thus both Sassoon Marsh and the Delta, nearby severely disadvantaged communities are likely to benefit. And additionally, the applicant's letters of support include several letters from teachers and school administrators who work with disadvantaged and severely disadvantaged communities. This project is consistent with Proposition 68, the Conservancy's enabling legislation and strategic plan, as well as all other relevant state and local priorities. This project, again, does not have a cost share, a qualifying cost share component in the way that we would define cost share, but they have raised a significant amount of money and will be using their own money to pay for the restoration of the wetlands, which is part of the Walk in the Marsh, the overall Walk in the Marsh project. So at this point, I'll pause and respond to any questions.
Great, thanks, Robin. Turn to Mitch.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to speak to this as it is in our county. It's incredibly important to our county, but not just our county. As you heard stated, this project, because of its proximity to 680, Highway 680, is going to be accessible to the entire Bay Area. And it will be able to serve literally thousands of students throughout the Bay Area in disadvantaged communities, as well as locally here in Solano County. And the project itself overall, while this is just a small component, is going to be a incredibly important asset to teaching future generations about the Bay and about its importance and about our Delta and about its importance to the environment and to our community. So, you know, our county, the city of Fairfield, everybody's absolutely in support of this. And I just want to thank the board for considering it and ask for your support on it.
Great. Thanks, Mitch. Okay. Any other comments or questions before we go to Rachel for the explanation on the motion? Right.
No public comments.
Thanks, Martha. Okay, so we'll turn to Rachel and then we'll come back for the motions.
Thank you, Chair Natoli. So the Pacific Flyway Center Walk in the Marsh is the final CEQA scenario before you for consideration today. This project is not exempt under CEQA. The City of Fairfield is the lead agency, and the Delta Conservancy as a funder is a responsible agency. The City of Fairfield prepared an initial study and mitigated negative declaration in order to analyze all potential adverse environmental impacts of the project. The initial study found potential significant project impacts on environmental aspects such as air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, geology and soil, hydrology and water quality, and noise. However, they also determined that all of the identified impacts could be reduced to insignificant levels through the implementation of mitigation measures outlined in the initial study, and prepared a mitigated negative declaration for the project to satisfy the requirements of CEQA. So as a responsible agency for the project that is not exempt under CEQA, the Delta Conservancy Board is required to make independent findings. These findings are represented by Resolution 2021-02, and we need to submit a notice of determination to the State Clearinghouse. Staff have reviewed the documents and findings provided by the City of Fairfield, and staff recommend that the board make responsible agency findings, concluding that all necessary mitigation measures have been included in the project to eliminate significant impacts on the environment. If the board adopts the resolution, the board chair will then sign the notice of determination and the resolution, and staff will post these items to the State Clearinghouse and the Delta Conservancy's website.
Okay, thanks, Rachel.
So, Mr. Chair, could I make a motion? That we move to adopt resolution 2021-02, which makes the responsible agency findings that all necessary mitigation measures have been included in the Pacific Flyway Center Walk in the Marsh project.
Very good. Well stated. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. I'll second it.
Who do I have? Karen?
I'll second it, yeah, just because it's close to Contra Costa.
Okay, very good. Okay. So we do have a motion and a second, and we have no public comments, and we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Jessica, go ahead.
Okay, Chair Natoli?
Aye.
Vice Chair Matsumoto?
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell?
Yes.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Supervisor Mashburn?
Yes.
Supervisor Provenza?
Yes.
Board Member Miller?
Aye.
Yeah. Board Member Cash?
Aye.
Board Member Roostoller is absent. Board Member Winterness is absent. And Board Member Sandoval?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have 9 ayes and 2 absents. The board carries. And I apologize, Board Member Miller, since there are 2 Millers, I do have to keep saying your name, your first name. Motion carries.
Right. Very good. Okay. Well, thank you. So that's 3 for 3. And Robin, there's a second portion to the motion, as I understand it. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, did Supervisor Mashburn, did you want to read this one as well?
I do, absolutely.
Go ahead.
We move. Could I please move to award funding up to 1.486 050 to the Pacific Flyway Fund from the Proposition 68 Community and Economic Enhancement Grant Program for the Pacific Flyway Center Walk in the Marsh project.
And I'll second that one also.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further board comment? Then we'll go ahead and call for the roll call. Jessica? Jesse?
I'm so sorry. I
Okay.
unmuted. I muted.
There you go.
Chair Natoli,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchoff,
Yeah. Oh,
Vice Chair Matsumoto,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchoff,
yes.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Yes.
Supervisor Provenza,
Aye.
Board Member Miller,
Aye.
Board Member Cash,
Aye.
Board Member Rustaller is absent, Board Member Winterness is absent, and Board Member Sandoval. Dolly?
Yes.
Yes, we have 9 ayes and 2 absent. The motion carries. That's 6 of 8. We're on the downhill slide.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, very good. Yes, thank you. 3 for 3 and really awesome projects. Do we have folks on the phone on this one?
Yeah,
We
we have
do.
one hand raised. Veronica Cornett.
Okay, good. Thanks, Martha. Thanks, James. Okay, Veronica, you're on.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, board members, staff, and good morning, Supervisor Mashburn. We cannot tell you, I don't know if you can see it in my face, but on behalf of this small volunteer team at the Pacific Flyway Fund, we are ecstatic. We are overjoyed and want to thank you tremendously for the Conservancy Board approving this grant funding. I would be remiss, as well as our entire team, if we didn't acknowledge the tremendous and tireless guidance and support provided by Robin and the entire Delta staff. It really, you can't measure it. It has really been an interesting, fun, but tiring journey, and we really appreciate everything that's been done. This is going to absolutely curb jump this project, and it's going to make Ken Hoffman's vision of the Walk in the Marsh become a reality. And we are so looking forward to sharing this project with everyone in Solano County and the entire Bay Area, and in fact, the West Coast. And we are really looking forward to coming and visiting and highlighting bird migration, the Delta, Habitat Conservancy, and education. And again, Supervisor Mashburn, thank you so much for those kind words. This opportunity is greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. Thanks, Mitch, and to all our staff. And again, another kudo for Robin for your work and that of all your colleagues on these projects. And I would just note too that, you know, what we've seen this morning is 3 keystone projects throughout the Delta, and there's more to come. And I think, as has been stated so eloquently by my colleagues, that you know, it really is putting the dollars to work that obviously been authorized by the voters in the state. And you know, what will be resulting from all this will be opportunities to learn, to appreciate, and to I think really come to know the Delta from a variety of perspectives. And so very, very important. And thanks to all the volunteers that have worked on these projects. You've all been, you know, very gracious in extending your appreciation, but we want to certainly turn that back to all of you for your tireless efforts as well. So it's a great partnership. And with that, then Robin, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I am thrilled to be able to see these projects be awarded. They're all great projects with really good volunteer applicant teams that, as you said, have worked very, very hard to get here.
Thank you so much for all your contribution. So we're gonna miss you dearly. So, but you know, this is if you're gonna move on, this is a good way to certainly, you know, I think sees the fruition of a lot of your work as well. So thanks, Robin. Okay. Any other callers on the phone then? Is there anybody else in the hall? No, I see Martha saying no. All righty. Again, any other comments by board members? Want to move on? Okay. All right. Seeing none, again, our thanks to all. So we'll move then to item number 11 on our agenda. And this is going to be Campbell, and this is the review of the general grant guidelines draft for the public review. So Campbell.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
It's good to follow that up and really in the vein of being able to continue to do great work. What we're presenting to you today is draft general grant guidelines with a recommendation from staff that the board approve them for public review. As I mentioned in the executive officer's report, we have a couple new funding sources coming on, the $5.2 million in climate, as well as the potential $10 million from DWR for drought response. The governor and the Secretary Crowfoot have expressed urgency in getting these funds moving to address the severity of the climate and drought risks. And really to that end, we have rapidly taken our grant guidelines and tried to formulate them in a way that would accommodate both of those funding sources as well as other funding sources into the future. So you're aware that we have grant guidelines for Proposition 1 and Proposition 68 that are very specific to the requirements in those bonds. These grant guidelines are intended for general fund. And so all the references to the bond language has been removed. You know, the intention is to really maintain all of the credibility of our Proposition 1 grant guidelines. This has been patterned after them, but to really demonstrate best available science, demonstrate local support for projects moving forward, and then ensure that we're bringing appropriate projects to the board and spending the funding appropriately. So you have the grant guidelines. Happy to answer any questions. If approved, we would put the grant guidelines out for a 30-day public comment period. And we would then, of course, consider all comments received. And then we would bring a final draft back to the board in January for consideration to close out the process. The suggested motion language is that we would move that the board approve the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta Conservancy General Grant Guidelines draft for public review, and happy to answer any questions that you might have about those grant guidelines at this point.
Great. Thanks, Campbell. Questions? Sandy.
Yeah, I noticed it said that the grants could be competitive or non-competitive. Any idea? I mean, obviously, especially the drought funding needs to go out quickly. And so I'm presuming those would be non-competitive, but could you talk a little bit about how you're distinguishing between the two?
Yeah, I think for the programs that we're envisioning, the flexibility to do more directed action is really important. And so targeting those people that we know can be good partners, that we know can put good projects on the landscape, but also leaving it open to others as well. And then using our review process to ensure, again, that those projects are competitive and qualify across all the criteria and are good projects to fund. So it does leave us the ability in the future, if we have a more open process or a process where we want to solicit more broader ideas or opportunities, to do an open solicitation, but it also gives us that flexibility to be more targeted as well.
Any other questions, Sandy?
No, well, actually, just one follow-up. And then with the non-competitive ones, would they have to do the whole proposal process, or would you be able to expedite that at all?
No, I think we would still require that they do the proposal process. So as we actually roll out the programs, either the drought response program or climate program, our application materials would be very specific about what's required, just in the same way that they are for Prop 1 and Prop 68. But we still want to make sure that the bulk of that information we have, and we are actually reviewing it appropriately. So we are always looking for ways to streamline those processes, but we also want to make sure that we don't, lack any information that we really need to make a good assessment and recommendation to the board.
All right, thanks, Campbell. All right, thanks, Andy. Jim, you have your hand up?
Yes. So my understanding then is that after these guidelines are approved, after further public input, you would come back with a grant program for drought and climate. Is there anything else, or is it just limited to those two?
Well, currently that's what's on the horizon. That's what we're aware of. But we're trying to, the guidelines are actually, we're trying to formulate them for future funding sources as well. So that don't have specific bond related requirements. So typically general fund funding. Now, if another bond passes in the future, we would have to redo the grant guidelines to cover the specific elements within that bond. But we are trying to be as flexible as we can for sort of anticipated funding in the future. But of course, we always would be working with the board to understand what the program is and how funding would be consistent with our purposes.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Seeing no hands, then Martha or James, any public comments on this?
No public comments on my end.
All right. So we have no public comments, so I'll bring it back to the board. Campbell did give a draft motion, so do we have a motion on this?
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
All right. Moved by Mitchell, second by Mashburn. And if there's nothing further, thanks for the good questions. Then we'll turn to Jessica to call the roll, please.
That's done. Okay, Chair Natoli.
Aye.
Vice Chair Matsumoto.
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchoff.
Yes.
Supervisor Miller.
Yes.
Supervisor Mashburn.
Yes.
Supervisor Provenza.
Aye.
Board Member Miller.
Aye.
And Board Member Cash.
Aye.
Board Member Rustoller is absent. Board Member Winterness is absent. And Board Member Sandoval.
Yes.
We have 9 ayes and 2 absent. The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you all. And we'll hear more back at the January meeting. So, okay, then we'll go to item number 12, which is the consideration of the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta Conservancy Strategic Plan for 2022 through 2027, draft for public review. And this item goes to Deborah for presentation. So, Deborah.
Yes, good morning. Yep, still morning. So I'm pleased to be able to present a draft of our strategic plan for the board to consider adopting today so that it can be posted for a public comment for 30 days. As you may recall, the Conservancy is required to adopt a strategic plan and for it to be consistent with other plans such as the Delta Plan and the Delta Protection Commission's Resource Management Plan and several others. And it needs to also be updated every 5 years per the direction of the board when the board was first established. So that's what we're doing today, is bringing you a draft of that. It's the third strategic plan that the Conservancy has developed, and it covers the periods starting January 2022 and ending December 2026. The plan was developed in-house with our staff being really instrumental in contributing considerable critical thinking to its development. And the graphic design was done in-house by none other than our administration supervisor, Brenda Lusk. So we're very pleased with her work on that. So in response to input from the board at our recent meetings where we've discussed this process and our experience with prior plans, we've really streamlined this current plan so that it highlights a little more clearly the goals and objectives of the Conservancy and makes them a little more prominent and easy to understand. And it's just what we feel to be a more user-friendly document and a tool for our not only our staff, but also the board and our stakeholders in seeing what our strategic plan is going forward. There are 5 goals, each with 2 to 3 objectives each, and some representative metrics of how we'll assess performance of meeting those goals and objectives. So I won't walk through each of them. I'm happy to go through any detail, but there are, the goals reflect some focus areas. So the first one is ecological, the second one is working lands, the third is community and economic development. The fourth is enriching understanding, which Chair Natoli, in his comments just really noted how important that is to expand the understanding of the importance of the Delta. And then the fifth one is inward focused of our organization and culture. So in all things we do, we have really aimed to try to balance our ambitions in advancing the goals of the Conservancy and our mission of working collaboratively with local communities and leading the efforts in the Delta, with the realism regarding the constraints that the discontinuous nature of our funding presents to long-term strategic planning. So new to this plan are 7 guiding principles that, as the name implies, are intended to guide the organization and each of us, staff and board alike, in essentially everything we do. So should the board approve this draft document, the next step is to make it available for 30 days on our website, and we'll send information out through our listserv and social media to make sure people know that's available. And we'll consider all comments received not only today, but during that public comment period, make updates to the document as needed, and then the plan is to present a final version to the board to consider adopting at the January 2022 meeting. So we look forward to hearing your thoughts and answering any questions you may have regarding the plan.
Great. Thanks, Deborah. Thanks for your work. So do we have questions, comments? Oh, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question on the different goals and objectives. There are metrics that are stated, but like if you look at the first goal, increase or adapt landscapes to be resilient to climate change. Are we going to set an acre or some other metrics for this?
The intent wasn't to set metrics at this level. As we embark on individual initiatives that will be identified in the implementation plan, which is what I'll be talking about next, we may, for any individual project, set goals that we want to target. We didn't really think it appropriate to do it at this strategic plan level, not knowing exactly what would be relevant on a broader scale. So where appropriate, we would consider setting really specific goals or using measurements, relative measurements to see trends over time. So are the acres being protected, for instance, increasing? And maybe we would set an ultimate goal, or maybe we would be setting a goal of that being an increasing trend. So that's a long-winded way to say it sort of depends.
Thanks.
I would just chime in and add too that there are goals for those type of issues coming out of the Delta Stewardship Plan, Delta Stewardship Council's Chapter 4 revision, as well as the climate adaptation strategy that we'll be developing. So we will try to dovetail our metrics with those metrics as well as they come out, and get more specific with funding sources and programs.
Brian, anything else? Good question. Okay, thanks, Deborah and Campbell. Anyone else? Questions?
No public comments.
All right, we have no public comments, no folks signed up. So then bring it back for a motion.
Yeah. All right, so the suggested motion that we have is the staff recommends that the board approve the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta Conservancy strategic plan for 2022 to 2027 draft for public review.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Right. By Mashburn. You have a second?
Second. Oh,
That'd be great. I can't see who that is.
Gail.
Gail. Miller.
Yes.
Sorry.
Great.
I'm sorry. It's hard when I don't see you. I got the
No,
voice.
no, that's good. Okay, so we have a motion by Mashburn and a second by member Gail Miller. And
okay, so our last vote for the day, number 8, Chair Natoli.
Aye.
Vice Chair Matsumoto.
Yes.
Board Supervisor Mitchoff.
Yes.
Oh, you are still there. Good.
Yeah, thanks for staying connected. We saw her
No,
get in the car.
I'm in the car, so.
Oh, you're on it. Okay.
But
Supervisor
this is
Miller.
the end of the action item, so
Yes.
I'll see you later, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Karen, for
Okay.
staying with us.
Okay, I've got Supervisor Miller.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Supervisor Mashburn.
Yes.
Supervisor Provenza.
Aye.
Board Member Miller.
Aye.
Board Member Cash.
Aye.
Board Member Rustoller is absent. Board Member Witternitz is absent. I understand Dolly is absent now. Board Member Sandoval, we have absent. So we have 8 ayes and we have 3 absents. The motion carries.
Okay. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks to all. Again, thank you, Deborah, for your work on this. And staff. All right, so coming down to non-action items, reports. Again, thanks for folks who've been waiting patiently. And so we'll go to the first one, item 14, which is an update by the Delta Stewardship Council, and Amanda Bull, I believe, is carrying this. So Amanda?
Actually, we got to go back to 13, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Limitation plan status.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I
Skipped
was skip. That's right. Okay, go back to item 13. So my apologies. Deborah.
All right. So this is an informational item to provide a mid-year update regarding the implementation plan, which is an annual plan for specific actions that we are taking toward achieving the goals and objectives of our strategic plan. So the current plan that we are working with was adopted in January of this year. And as everybody's well aware, it's been another challenging year, of course, due to the pandemic. And although they've been for really good reasons, we've had some vacancies, as we've talked about. We're small and the effects of turnover are naturally impactful for us, and there's only so much we can do about that. But we do continue some very serious succession planning and are taking specific steps to mitigate the impact when we do have vacancies. And of course, there's not much that we can do to affect a global pandemic, but we are actively assessing ourselves as an organization and finding ways and opportunities to improve in all aspects of what we do and how we do it, which just leads to our resiliency and flexibility in carrying things out when things are less than ideal situation. So you'll see that in reflection of that in the update that we've had to make some adjustments. However, I'm really pleased with the progress we've made and our ability to carry out the Conservancy's mission, and hopefully the board feels the same. I really do credit our progress, as has been talked about before, to our Conservancy staff. We're really lucky that everyone here truly believes in the mission and the objectives of the organization, and they've just stepped up to meet the challenge. They work really, really hard and largely behind the scenes, and they're really good at what they do, and we're lucky to have them on our team. So I won't walk through individual tasks in the update, but I'm happy to respond to any questions you may have. But before I open it up to comments and questions, just a quick note about the 2022 implementation plan. Because, as you know, as we just talked about, we'll be bringing a final version of the strategic plan before the board to consider adopting as final in January. So that's when we typically bring the implementation plan for adoption as well. But we are proposing to wait until March in order to do that, so that the 2022 implementation plan can reflect the final strategic plan that hopefully the board will adopt in January. So.
Thank you, Deborah. Thanks for the summation. Let me turn to board members in. Any comments or questions? Update? hands. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No public comment.
All righty. Well, again, thank you, Deborah, and certainly to our staff. Small in number, but mighty in your work effort, and we appreciate all of that. And again, I think it's important to track these things, and certainly even in light of the challenging times, as we just saw from previous agenda items and what lies ahead with some of the work. There's a lot of good effort and a lot of good work and some very, very outstanding results. So we appreciate the ongoing tracking of this, and hopefully be able to fill some vacancies and get some additional hands on deck to help with some of the work. But thank you so much. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, that was the information item. And if there's nothing further on item 13, now to item 14. Thanks, Campbell, for keeping me on track here. So we'll turn to our updates with our partner agencies. And first one then is the Delta Stewardship Council update, which is Amanda Bull. Amanda.
So actually, we're changing Amanda to me. Unfortunately, Amanda was not able to be here today.
Okay.
She was, I believe she's on vacation. So
okay.
You just sent me one quick paragraph that I'm just going to read. The Delta Stewardship Council has issued a notice of availability of a draft programmatic environmental impact report for the proposed amendments to Chapter 4 of the Delta Plan, which is the section that is to protect, restore, and enhance the Delta ecosystem. There is a 64-day public comment period, and it's open until November 30th, or comments can be received. Comments can be received either by mail or email, or they can be read orally at the Stewardship Council's November 18th public hearing, and that will be considered in the development of the final EIR. And additional information is available on their website. So this is obviously this section is very relevant to our work. It establishes the overarching targets and objectives for restoration in the system. So I just want you all to be aware that that's available now.
Okay, thanks for the update. Thanks, Amanda, for providing that to Campbell to put into the information. And I trust you don't have any additional questions on that. Then we'll move forward and go to item 15, which is Delta. Oh, let me see any public comments on the Delta Stewardship Council update.
No public comments.
Okay, thanks. All right, with that then information, we'll keep moving forward. Item 15, Delta Protection Commission update, and I believe Eric Bink. So, great.
I don't see Eric in the panelist list.
There are members, staff, DPC, someone to offer comments?
Eric is in the attendees list.
Oh, he is. Okay.
So he might need to be unmuted.
Justin, can you unmute her?
Yep, not a problem. Eric, you should be able to speak now.
Looks like it's still, indication is that either he's muted or he's still muted.
Eric, you'll need to unmute, but you should be able to speak now.
Eric.
Hi there, I'm sorry.
No problem, we got you. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Well, thank you. And Conservancy board members, appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today. And I apologize, there's a little background noise. I'm helping my father out today. First off, congratulations to the Prop 68 awardees. Those are great projects. We look forward to learning a little bit more about the Delta Flyway Center. The Pacific Flyway Center, I mean. We're well acquainted with the Clarksville and Isleton projects and look forward to seeing those projects proceed. Just two things I wanted to report on today. One is the Great Delta Trail Master Plan, which we're bringing to our commission at the November 18th meeting. We're going to preview the recommendations for the master plan with our Delta Protection Advisory Committee meeting next Tuesday, November 2nd. And then if our commission approves on November 18th, we'll be taking the Great Delta Trail Master Plan out for some open house sessions in late November and early December. And this is all with an intention of ultimately bringing it back to our commission early in 2022 for their consideration. As I kind of jumped right past this, but the Great Delta Trail is goes back to legislation in 2006 that directed the commission to develop a plan to connect the Sacramento River Trailway in Sacramento and West Sacramento all the way to the Bay Trail in eastern Contra Costa County. And obviously there's a lot of delta that exists in between those 2 points. And so the Great California Delta Trail is intended to create a trail network throughout the region. And the master plan is an important component of that process. And then reporting on a project that's a joint effort between the commission and the Conservancy, which is our Delta Sign Plan. And as a part of that, the Welcome to the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta National Heritage Area signs. That is proceeding. We've had an interesting recent collaboration with Caltrans District 10 out of Stockton. They have, they are able to apply for funding under the, I don't have the exact name of it, but it's the beautification program that Caltrans has been putting out over the last couple of months. And we're encouraged that some of this Delta Sign Plan efforts, where we're attempting to create directional and wayfinding signs throughout the Delta region, might be able to be supported through this Caltrans grant opportunity. And I'm real excited about the collaboration with Caltrans District 10, very appreciative of our commission member, Dennis Agar, who is the director for Caltrans Region 10 and is our representative for the State Transportation Agency on the commission board, and hoping for a good outcome to that. The Delta NHA signs, we are expecting to have those back, the printed signs back from the Prison Industries Association in about 6 weeks. And our hope is that we can move promptly after that to installation of those in locations throughout the Delta. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that we are picking up our Delta Leadership Program again in 2022. We took a COVID pause in 2021. This is a program where we invite emerging leaders from throughout the Delta region to join a cohort of about 20 individuals. And then over the course of 5 day-long seminars, we expose them to policy issues of note throughout the Delta region and work on personal skills development to enable them to be better leaders in their community or their industry or whatever it is that relates to the Delta and brings them to our group. So we're asking for nominations on that. If you know of a up and coming leader in the Delta region, whether rural or urban Delta, we try to cover it all. And if you would consider nominating them, we would love to have your good nominations. November 19th is the deadline by which we're seeking those nominations. So I think that covers it, unless there are any questions for me.
Great, Eric, thanks. Questions or comments by board members? Okay, don't see any hands. Well, thank you, Eric, for the updates, and appreciate it, like as always.
Thank you.
Any public comments, Martha?
No public comments.
Very good. All right, again, some very good things that are on the move in the Delta, so thanks again for that update. All right, then we'll move down to item 16, which is our Delta Conveyance update, and Carrie Buckman.
Morning. Thank you, Chair Natoli and members of the board for having me this morning. Just a couple of quick updates today. We are really working hard towards having a public draft environmental impact report to analyze the Delta Conveyance project and the alternatives in mid-2022. So at this point, we're sort of in the phase where it's a lot of work and not a lot interesting to report. So we're noses to the grindstone. One thing I did want to mention is that we are continuing to work on developing a community benefits program, or the framework for a community benefits program, to include both in the EIR and part of project implementation later. And the next step in that is that we're setting up a case studies workshop where we have some representatives from other community benefits programs throughout the country coming to talk about how community benefits programs function, lessons learned, ideas about organizational structure. So trying to help, we've heard from community members that it's this is a lot to take in, and that trying to get some understanding about lessons learned from other places would be helpful. So we're trying to do that in a workshop that we're still trying to finalize the dates for the speakers, but we think it's going to be on November 17th in the evening. And we should be able to send out a formal notification early next week. So I think if you aren't already on our e-blast and you want notification, please go ahead and sign up on our website. And I think those are my updates, if there are any questions.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. Any questions, comments for Carrie? See any hands? So again, thank you, Carrie, for the update, and we'll keep us posted on November 17th, firming that date up. So, okay. All right, and any public comments on this item?
No public comments.
All right, then that takes us down to item 17, which is our potential future agenda items for the January 26, 2022 board meeting. So Campbell.
That's great, thank you. Just one quick note also, we did not have a Eco Restore update today. Oh. No one from Eco Restore was available, but those updates will resume in January.
Okay, great, thank you.
So for January, we're hoping to bring you more Proposition 68 projects, depending upon how they progress. There may be one or two or three. Consideration of the strategic plan, a final version after receiving public comments, and then consideration of a final set of general grant guidelines pending comments that we receive. We of course will hope that maybe we can be a hybrid situation, maybe some in person and some virtual, but we'll see how that goes. And we'll look for an opportunity as soon as possible to get the board out to have a meeting in the field and see some projects. My guess is March might be more realistic for that, but we'll just know that we're working on that and hope to get you out to see some more projects as soon as possible too. Great. And open to any other thoughts or ideas or things that the board members think we should be including.
Okay, thanks, Campbell. Board members, any other suggestions or items for consideration for the January agenda? See any hands? So again, if something does come up, obviously you can reach out to Campbell in the intervening time if there's something that has some urgency to it. So,
hey, John.
Yes.
As the last item, the board directives to staff. I have from this meeting a directive to send out an invite on the invasive species seminar and also to update the location and the grantee of the Prop 68-2208 items. And those are the two directives I have for the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Jessica. And I think that there was, I know Karen did weigh in about the information, but I think maybe information by other members about the Prop 68 grant. So if you have some additional background, that would be helpful. I think there was appreciation for all the staff work that goes into this. So we weren't requesting initially any additional staff work, but okay, that's great. Thank you for those items and thank you for tracking that, Jessica. All right, if there's nothing further than on that item, we'll bring us down to, we started with public comment and I would just end with any public comment on any item not on the agenda. Is there anybody signed up to speak, Martha or James? Or
no public comment and no raised hands.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. Again, a lot of work embodied in this agenda. Thank you again. Can't say it enough. And best wishes to Robin. We want to wish people well, so we won't see folks for the Thanksgiving or Christmas holiday seasons. But wish everybody a safe one. And thank you for your good work, staff. And congratulations to all the award winners today. Again, we've got some really strong partnerships out there. So if there's nothing further come before this, any board member, last chance before I bring this to a close. Okay. If nothing then I'm going to call for adjournment at 5 minutes after 11 or thereabouts. And we'll see you all, if not before, obviously, but for this board in January. So be well, be safe. Thank you all. And,
hi, everybody.
Dawn, could I touch base for 1 second?
Yeah, sure, Jesse, I'll stay on it. I know you wanted to follow up with some signatures, I think, so.
Yep.
Right.
So I'm going to wrap these up into one DocuSign document. There'll be the 2 resolutions and the 1 CEQA document. So you should just get 1 email.
All right, so
And
forward that, I told
18 hours
Letitia,
or so.
watch for that, we'll get those signatures.
Yep.
for
She
you,
gave
get
me
them.
the email address to send it to.
Okay, good. So if you have any trouble, give a call, and we don't want to hold up any good work, so because of my signature, so very good.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.